If everything changes, what can we trust in life, Buddhist wisdom for a restless world? A man stands in line at the pharmacy, gripping a prescription he can barely afford. Behind him, a woman scrolls through her news app. Another tragic school incident, another political scandal, another climate warning. Her chest tightens. Across town, a teenager sits silently in his room, flooded by the glow of his screen, but feeling more disconnected than ever. It's not just the headlines, it's the quiet unraveling of what once felt certain: a canceled plan, a friendship that fades, a layoff no one saw coming, a strange sensation in the body that turns into a diagnosis. The weight of uncertainty rarely crashes all at once. It builds drip by drip, until we no longer recognize the solid ground beneath us. Life today doesn't just move fast, it trembles beneath us. It spirals, it stutters, it defies our efforts to predict or pause. And in the midst of it all, a quiet, urgent question echoes. If everything is changing, what can I possibly hold on to? This isn't just your question. It's not just personal, it's cultural, global. We are living in a collective crisis. A crisis of trust. Trust in systems, in relationships, in purpose, and most of all, trust in ourselves. But here's the truth, this question isn't new. Over 2,500 years ago, a prince named Siddhartha walked away from his palace, haunted by the same realization. Everything he loved, everything he knew, was destined to change. Youth would fade, loved ones would pass, health would decline, wealth would vanish. But he didn't run from that truth. He faced it, sat with it, breathed through it. And what he discovered beneath the Bodhi tree wasn't a promise of permanence. It wasn't control. It was liberation. Through insight, through compassion, through presence. The Buddha didn't teach us how to escape change. He taught us how to trust it and how to find peace. Not in the absence of storms, but in the stillness we bring into them. In this journey, we'll draw upon Buddhist teachings, modern science, and real-life human experience to explore a question that feels more urgent than ever. When everything changes, what can we trust? By the end of this video, you'll understand trust doesn't require guarantees, only awareness, only courage, only you showing up to this moment again and again. Imagine standing on a beach, watching the waves roll in. No two waves are ever the same. They rise, crest, break, and vanish, only to be followed by another. Life in many ways mirrors that rhythm. Moments come and go. People enter our lives, then leave. Joy visits us, only to be followed by sorrow. Then laughter again. This natural rhythm of change is what Buddhism calls Anicca, impermanence. It's not a flaw in the system, it is the system. The Buddha taught that all conditioned phenomena, everything that arises from causes and conditions, is impermanent. That includes your body, your thoughts, your relationships, your titles, your proudest moments. Even the version of you you hold in your mind is shifting moment by moment. At first glance, that sounds bleak, but when seen clearly, it's not depressing, it's liberating. Neuroscience backs this up. Your brain isn't static, it's plastic. Malleable thanks to neuroplasticity. Your neurons are constantly firing, rewiring, reshaping who you are. You are not the same person you were 5 years ago. Not emotionally, not mentally, not even biologically. Even your memories aren't as fixed as you think. And yet, despite knowing this, we resist, we cling to youthful bodies, to stable jobs, to predictable emotions. We try to press pause on a moment, as if life will just stay this way a little longer. But impermanence doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't wait for our approval. It arrives uninvited, silently, inevitably, and when we treat it like a threat, we suffer. Buddhism does not say that change causes suffering. It says clinging to what is impermanent does. Think about heartbreak. It's not just the loss that hurts, it's the expectation that it wouldn't change. We imagine our love will stay the same. We assume our careers will keep rising. We hope our energy, our clarity, our health will remain consistent. But when they do, we don't just grieve the change. We grieve the illusion. We suffer because we tried to build a house on the riverbank and felt betrayed when the river moved. But maybe the river was never the problem. Maybe peace doesn't come from freezing the current, but from learning to float. Let's flip the lens. If everything changes, then pain also changes. If no moment is fixed, then no failure is final. If identity is fluid, then transformation is possible. Impermanence doesn't just mean things fall apart. It means things can begin again. It means forgiveness is real, growth is real, healing is real. Anicca is not the dead end. It's the doorway. Peace doesn't come from holding tight, it comes from loosening your grip. Life is a river. Don't try to dam it. Learn how to float and you'll stop drowning. In Western culture, letting go is often misunderstood. They say it means quitting, giving up, walking away. But in Buddhism, letting go is something entirely different. It's not apathy. It's not cold detachment. It's not checking out. It's choosing freedom over fear. Letting go means dropping the illusion that you can control everything. Other people's behavior, the future, even your own thoughts. It means choosing to love without needing to own, to give your best effort without demanding a guarantee, to stay grounded even when life refuses to play by your rules. Letting go takes courage, real courage. It takes courage to stop chasing closure, to stop rehearsing what you could have said, what you should have done. It takes courage to say this simple, quiet truth: I will love fully and still let this go. It takes clarity to know the difference between effort and attachment in love. Letting go may mean releasing your need to be understood. In your career, it may mean surrendering your personal timeline. In healing, it may mean releasing the identity of the one who's broken. Letting go is not passive. It's not laziness. It's not giving in. It's an active opening of the hands, of the heart, of the mind. Psychology calls this non-attachment. In mindfulness-based therapy, non-attachment isn't indifference. It's a form of inner spaciousness. Studies show that practicing non-attachment reduces anxiety, reduces depression, it lowers emotional reactivity, and builds resilience. Letting go doesn't mean you stop feeling. It means you stop being ruled by what you feel. It's learning to watch the storm without becoming the storm. You can love someone deeply and still let go of the need to shape their path. You can give your full self to a dream and still accept that the outcome was never fully in your hands. Letting go is what allows love to breathe. It's what allows growth to happen. It's what lets you stop spinning your wheels in the mud of control and start walking forward on the path of presence. Think of a time you couldn't let go, a grudge, a person, a version of yourself. Now think of the emotional toll you paid, the weight you carried, the way it hardened you. Now ask yourself, what would that moment have looked like if I had released instead of resisted? Letting go doesn't erase pain, but it softens suffering, because the pain is real, but the suffering often comes from grasping. Letting go is not weakness, It's emotional strength at its highest form. It's the courage to live with an open heart, even when nothing is certain. We grow up believing we are someone. We build an identity, a role, a story. I'm smart, I'm awkward, I'm the responsible one, I'm broken. And over time, these phrases become more than thoughts. They become walls, concrete, cold, impossible to pass through. But Buddhism offers a radical invitation. You are not who you think you are, not permanently, not unchangeably, not at your core. This isn't meant to scare you. It's meant to set you free. In Buddhist teachings, there's a word, Anatta. It means not self. That doesn't mean you don't exist. It means what you call you is not a fixed thing, not a permanent identity, not an unchanging soul. What you call you is a process, a dance, a swirl of sensations, perceptions, memories, thoughts, and consciousness, rising and falling moment by moment. Modern science backs this up. Neuroscientists will tell you there is no single place in the brain where your self lives. It's not in the frontal lobe, not in your memory center, not in your emotions. The self is a story, an emergent experience, a network of associations, stitched together by the mind's need for continuity. Psychologists call it the narrative self. It's the voice in your head that explains who you are, why you're like this, what comes next. But here's the problem: that story is often outdated. It was written when you were 5 or 10, or after your first heartbreak, or your worst mistake. And when you hold on to it too tightly, you suffer. Let's say you were abandoned as a child. You told yourself, people always leave. Now as an adult, you sabotage relationships, afraid of the ending you've already decided will come. Or maybe you failed once, and the story became, I'm not capable, so you stopped trying. That belief stuck. Like paint that never dries, like armor you forgot how to remove. But pause and look closely. Haven't your reactions changed? Your opinions, your emotions, your goals? Then why should yourself be the only thing that stays the same? What if you stopped saying, I am this, and started asking, what am I becoming? You are not a fixed object. You are not a finished product. You are a process, a becoming, a becoming, a becoming. The Buddha once said, the self is like a flame. It exists, but only in motion, flickering, shifting, fueled by conditions, never still, never the same. This isn't depressing, it's beautiful. Because it means you're not trapped in who you were, not in your pain, not in your shame, not in the old chapters. You keep rereading. You are the awareness behind all of it, and that awareness can awaken. In Mahayana Buddhism, there's a powerful idea, Buddha nature. It says every being, no matter how lost or confused, carries the seed of awakening. This isn't a soul, it's not magic, it's your natural capacity to see clearly, to love deeply, to turn suffering into wisdom. And you already have it, right now. No matter what story you've been telling yourself, don't believe everything you think about yourself. You are not a label, not a wound, not a single moment frozen in time. You are a river, a song still being written. You are not a fixed identity, you are a becoming. And the more you observe your patterns, with curiosity, with compassion, the more freedom you gain to grow beyond them. In a chaotic world, most of us reach for something, anything to stabilize us. We grab our phones, we stress eat, we scroll until our thumbs ache. We binge distractions like candy because silence feels sharp. Stillness feels unbearable. So we run from discomfort, from fear, from the ache we don't know how to name. But what if the answer isn't running faster? What if the real answer is learning how to pause? Not a weak pause, not a numb pause, but a powerful, awake, present pause. The word gets thrown around like glitter in a wellness ad. But at its core, mindfulness means being aware of what's happening. As it's happening, without judgment, that's it. Awareness without running, without fixing, without labeling things good or bad, just this, just now. Mindfulness is the bridge. It's not about detaching from reality. It's about returning to it. With gentleness, with clarity, with breath. It's the tool that helps you watch the storm without becoming the storm. It's how you shift from reactive to responsive, from chaos to calm, from overwhelm to groundedness. And here's the magic: it's always available, right here, right now. In your breath, in your body, in the present. Harvard, MIT, UCLA, they've all studied this. And the results: mindfulness practice shrinks the amygdala, the fear center of your brain, strengthens the prefrontal cortex, your reasoning hub, increases empathy and compassion, lowers anxiety, depression, and emotional reactivity. In other words, mindfulness literally rewires your brain toward peace, toward balance, toward you being okay without needing the world to be. And unlike a pill, you don't need a prescription, you just need attention. Let's say something triggers you. A message, a look, a memory. Without mindfulness, you spiral, the nervous system takes over, you lash out, you shut down, you overthink, you regret. With mindfulness, you pause, you notice the tension rise. But you don't act on it. You feel the fire, but you don't throw it, you name the emotion. You feel it in your body, you breathe, you stay, and in that pause, you do something revolutionary. You break the cycle. Here's a tool. Use it the next time life feels too much. Close your eyes, feel your feet on the ground, notice your breath. Silently say, "This is what now feels like." Breathe into it. Not away from it. No fixing, no forcing, just feeling, just being. Until it passes, because it always does. Here's the real gift when you practice this often. Something shifts. You start trusting life again, not because it gives you what you want, but because you realize you can meet whatever comes. You don't need certainty, you don't need a map, you just need presence. You stop needing guarantees and start becoming grounded in now. You don't need to control everything, you just need to be with it. Mindfulness is your anchor. Return to it, and you'll stop being swept away. Here's a hard truth: most of life doesn't go as planned. You can visualize, you can hustle, you can pray, journal, manifest, and still wake up somewhere completely unexpected. You can do all the right things and still watch everything fall apart. So eventually, the real question is, how do I make sure this works out? The real question becomes, if I can't trust the outcome, what can I trust? Trust the path, not the finish line, not the checklist, not the fantasy version of your life, but the path you're walking, the one right under your feet. Even when it's covered in fog, let's be honest, we all want security. We want the contract, the clarity, the dotted line to success, to love, to peace. But life doesn't offer dotted lines. Life offers spirals, twists, blank pages. You might lose the job, the person, the plan, the version of yourself you once thought was forever, but the path, your practice, your values, your integrity, that can remain. In Buddhism, there are three inner anchors. They're called the three jewels. The Buddha, not a deity, but a mirror of your awakened potential. The Dharma, the teachings that reveal how life truly works. The Sangha, the community that reminds you you're not walking alone. These aren't beliefs you have to swallow. They're invitations, maps, compasses, when everything falls apart. These three can help you stay together. To trust the path doesn't mean trusting that it will be easy. It means trusting that it will be workable. It means believing that your tools, awareness, kindness, honesty, can meet whatever life hands you. Faith is not pretending you know what comes next. It's the willingness to take the next right step, even when the ground feels like mist. You don't need a perfect plan, you need presence. You can't trust that life won't hurt you. You can't trust that people won't leave. That success will arrive. That answers will be clear. But you can trust this, that clarity grows with attention. That love expands with presence. That healing unfolds with honesty. And more than anything, you can trust that who you are becoming is more important than where you end up in a world with no solid ground. Walk anyway, even if your hands are shaking, even if the road isn't visible yet. Trust the path, step by step, not because it's perfect, but because you are walking it, with eyes open, heart soft, and presence intact. We live in a world addicted to extremes. You're either grinding 24/7, or you're lazy. You're either a success or a failure. You're either spiritual or superficial, happy or broken, winner or loser, all or nothing. Social media doesn't help. One click, one post, one label, nuance disappears. But the Buddha offered something radical, a third path, the middle way. A life not swaying from one extreme to the other, but walking steady, present, and between them. He said, avoid indulgence in pleasure. Avoid self-torture. Peace lives in the middle. Why extremes fail us. Extremes are tempting. They feel clean, absolute, like a shortcut to certainty. If I hustle hard enough, I'll win. If I renounce everything, I'll awaken. But both of those roads lead to suffering. Overindulgence creates craving. Deprivation creates resentment. Both push you out of balance. Both silence the wisdom of the present moment. So what if the answer isn't more or none, but enough? Enough rest, enough effort, enough stillness, enough letting go. Balance is not passive, it's not dull, it's not mediocre. It's a conscious act of alignment. Think of a tightrope walker. Balance isn't freezing in place. It's making 1,000 tiny adjustments. With every step, that's what the middle way looks like in real life. Working with purpose without burning out. Caring deeply without drowning in others' pain. Being present without losing sight of where you're going. Balance is alive. It listens, it responds, it breathes. Today we glorify burnout. We wear exhaustion like a badge, proof that we're committed, that we're trying hard enough. But burnout is often fear in disguise, fear that we're not enough. Fear that rest is weakness, fear that slowing down will leave us behind. The Buddha saw through that illusion. He didn't teach maximum effort, he taught right effort. Am I pushing or flowing? Am I acting from fear or from wisdom? Is this leading to awakening or avoidance? Right effort means showing up. With intention, not intensity, with care. Not chaos, with steadiness. Not striving. Balance isn't weakness, it's a radical act. In a world that shouts, go harder or give up. Choosing the middle way is choosing your sanity. It's choosing peace. It's choosing presence. It's choosing yourself. Love is beautiful, but love mixed with clinging becomes suffering. We cling because we fear. Fear of loss, fear of being alone, fear of not being enough. But Buddhism teaches, true love does not bind, it frees. Letting go gives us freedom, said the Buddha. And freedom is the only condition for happiness. We confuse love with possession. We say, you're mine. We expect others to fill our emptiness, stabilize our chaos, fix our pain. But no one can do that. And when they can't, we become resentful, jealous, controlling. Clinging disguises itself as love, but it's rooted in fear. And fear poisons the very thing we want to preserve. Imagine this: you love someone deeply. You enjoy their presence. You celebrate their growth. But you don't need them to stay the same. You don't need them to complete you. You offer love freely without contract. That's metta, loving kindness without strings. Love without clinging doesn't mean disconnection. It means loving with open hands, not tight fists. Clinging is like cupping your hands too tightly around a candle. You think you're protecting the flame, but you smother it. Real love is like letting the flame breathe, trusting the wind, knowing it may flicker, but that doesn't mean it's gone. This applies to romance, friendships, even parenting. The tighter you hold, the more suffocated the connection becomes. Attachment says, don't change, don't leave, stay who I need you to be. Attunement says, I see you as you are, I walk beside you, not on top of you. Love thrives in attunement, it dies in attachment. Clinging doesn't just show up in relationships with others. We also cling to our image, our status, our youth, our worth. But when we let go of needing to be someone special, we become someone real. We become capable of real love, love that sees clearly, feels fully, and doesn't grasp. Love deeply, but love without owning, fixing, or fearing. Love with open hands, and let that be enough. We are all dying. Every breath is a goodbye. Every day is a letting go. This isn't morbid. It's awakening. In Buddhism, the contemplation of death is not about fear. It's about freedom. Because when you realize everything is passing, you stop wasting time. You stop waiting to live. The Buddha taught Maranasati, the practice of remembering death daily. This isn't about obsession. It's about intimacy with impermanence. When you hold death close, you live more fully. You see priorities clearly. You forgive faster. You listen deeper. You drop petty battles. You embrace the now. Death awareness doesn't depress, it sharpens. We live like we're immortal. Like we'll get around to it later. But there is no later. The people you love, they're temporary. Your body, temporary. This moment. Gone as you read this sentence. Contemplating death is not giving up. It's waking up. There's a famous Sufi saying, die before you die. Buddhism echoes this. It asks, can you let go of ego now? Can you release the false self before your body is forced to? Can you die to what no longer serves you? Your stories, grudges, illusions, roles, each day offers a funeral for what's no longer needed. Each breath is a tiny death and a tiny rebirth. When you know you will die, you savor. You taste your coffee, you listen to the birds, you forgive your mother, you stop numbing yourself. Death teaches you how to live. It strips away the unnecessary. It burns off the drama. And what's left? Presence, compassion, clarity, joy. Remember death, not to fear it, but to live so fully that when it comes, you'll have nothing left to hold back. Something happens, you flinch, you shut down, you lash out. Sound familiar? Most of us live in reaction mode, ping-ponging between triggers and impulses ruled by past conditioning. But Buddhist wisdom offers a radical alternative. You can live in response mode from awareness, not automaticity. This one shift can change your life. Reactions are quick, they're reflexive. Someone criticizes you, you get defensive. You feel bored, you reach for your phone. You're afraid, you control, withdraw, or numb. Reaction is a loop. Stimulus, right arrow emotion, right arrow action, right arrow regret. But response adds a powerful element, pause, the sacred pause. Between stimulus and response, there is space. In that space lies your freedom. Mindfulness expands that space. When you pause, you interrupt your old wiring, you breathe, you observe, you choose consciously. This is where suffering transforms into insight. The amygdala is the part of your brain that detects threat. When triggered, it bypasses logic and hijacks your body into fight, flight, or freeze. But consistent mindfulness practice strengthens your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for regulation, reasoning, and compassion. Over time, you stop being a prisoner of your past. You gain emotional literacy, the ability to feel without becoming consumed. Imagine feeling anger and not acting on it, noticing jealousy and choosing kindness, hearing criticism and staying rooted in clarity, being anxious but breathing through instead of numbing out. This isn't denial, it's transcendence. It's not cold detachment, it's warm, grounded presence. Response doesn't mean you stop feeling. It means you feel fully, then choose wisely. Jigsaw the 3 Rs of awakening. 1. Recognize what's arising. 2. Relax into the discomfort. 3. Respond with compassion. These 3 steps can turn a lifetime of reactivity into a moment of awakening. Reaction is instinct, response is practice, and in every pause you reclaim the power to shape your life. Let's face it, life is loud. There's the noise outside, media, opinions, demands, chaos, and the noise inside, doubt, fear, craving, guilt, endless to-do lists. Peace isn't found by escaping all noise. It's found by discovering a deeper stillness within it. In the center of a hurricane, there's an I, calm, silent. Buddhist practice helps you live from that center, not by removing the storm, but by not identifying with it. You don't need to silence your mind. You need to stop believing every thought it generates. You don't need a quiet life. You need a quiet center. Silence as wisdom. The Buddha often taught in silence, because not all truth needs words. Stillness is not emptiness, it's the fullness of being present. When you rest in stillness, you stop chasing meaning and begin receiving it. You stop resisting life and begin merging with it. Stillness doesn't always mean meditation on a cushion. It can be a mindful walk through nature, a deep breath before answering, sitting in traffic and watching the sky, washing dishes with full attention. Stillness isn't about slowing life down. It's about not speeding yourself up inside. Stillness isn't the end goal, it's the space where wisdom arises. In stillness, you remember that pain is not permanent, that you are not your thoughts. That peace is already here, it just needs room. You don't need life to be quiet. You need to become the quiet within it. Stillness is not absence, it is presence amplified. We began this journey with a question. If everything changes, what can we trust? And now, after exploring impermanence, identity, mindfulness, love, death, and balance, the answer is not what most of us expect. We cannot trust that things will stay. We cannot trust that life will be fair. We cannot trust that the future will look like we hope. But we can trust the flow. We can trust that everything is impermanent, and that includes pain. We can trust that awareness never abandons us. We can trust that presence is always available. And most of all, we can trust ourselves, not as fixed identities, but as evolving beings. Beings who learn, who feel, who forgive, who fall and get back up, who let go and begin again. The Buddha never promised a life without storms, but he showed us how to find peace within them. So the next time everything changes, when the job ends, the relationship shifts, the dream fades. Don't panic. Pause, breathe, return to presence. You don't have to cling, you don't have to control, you only have to trust the path. Walk it, step by step, with open eyes, with an open heart, with the courage to meet what is. And when you do, you'll find something more trustworthy than permanence. You'll find something more solid than certainty. You'll find the quiet power of awareness, and that is enough.